Do you remember the original SuperMotocross race? Way back in 2016, there was a race put on in Gelsenkirchen, Germany, where it was the SuperMotocross Riders and Manufacturers Cup. In this race, all the manufacturers sent their best riders in the world basically to race against each other in this arena in Germany. They tamed down the track, and it was the original SuperMotocross Riders Cup. So this is way back when SuperMotocross in America didn't even exist, and suddenly we had SMX in Germany. So let's talk about it. So given that it was a Riders and Manufacturers Cup, obviously manufacturers sent each of their riders at the time. Honda had Tim Geiser, Evgeny Bobashev, and Gautier Paulin riding for their factory teams in MXGP. And then Husqvarna, they didn't actually put everyone in the game that was on Husky. Zach Osborne raced for Husky. Here's the entire Kawasaki team: Jordi Tixier, Tommy Searle, big names at the time. And then KTM, of course, sent Marvin Musquin and Ryan Dungey, but again, licensing agreements, they couldn't get them in the game, so you only have Hurlings and Prado. Interestingly enough, Jorge Prado, way back when, raced this race as well. Suzuki had Jake Weimer get into this game, which is kind of cool. Jasikonis, Jeremy Seawer, and then Yamaha with Roman Fevre, Janis Ursuti, and Brent Van Donnick. So we're just going to go with Honda in this one. Why not? And have some fun. Now, this game is DLC actually in MXGP3. So MXGP3, which was coming out in 2017, you could get DLC for the game, and it actually had this available in it. And obviously, because it is an MXGP game title, that's why it was so much easier for them to get all of the MXGP athletes in it. And for the American side, only really get Jake Weimer in it, but it's still kind of cool that they even included this as DLC, because while it was put on by, at the time, Youthstream, the company that runs MXGP, it wasn't like it was an official part of the championship or anything like that. So I wonder, licensing agreement-wise, like how that kind of worked or what they had to go through to actually make it happen. But let's talk about the format of this race, because it was kind of interesting. What they decided to do was have three motos. Everybody raced the three motos, but the Manufacturers Cup side of it was your best two scores from all the riders would get scored, and then you would have basically 6 scores by the end of it. And then in the Riders Cup itself specifically, it was obviously the best rider over the 3 moto scores. Now, the winner was Ryan Dungey, but in typical Ryan Dungey fashion, he didn't win any of the races. In fact, all the races were won by MXGP riders, because in the first race, I think it was Tim Geiser that won the first race. Roman Fevre, who had won the 2015 world title the year before, won the second moto, and then Jeffrey Hurlings won the third moto. But if I remember right, there was also like a lot of crashing. Geiser had crashes. Hurlings, I think in the first race, went down like out of turn 1, so he was way back. And Dungey went like 2-3-2 to win the Riders Cup side of it. And then KTM, definitely carried by Hurlings, Musquin, and Dungey, was able to win the Manufacturers Cup. But it's kind of interesting, I guess, just to go back and look at this, because this is what SuperMotocross, I guess, is supposed to be the vision of, right? So you have a flatter track, you have easier obstacles, and they kind of designed that almost to make it so that the MXGP guys would do it. It's not a true Supercross race. It's not like the Paris Supercross or anything along those lines. But, SuperMotocross nowadays, they're trying to make it like tamed down version of Supercross. We saw the layout from St. Louis just this past weekend has one rhythm section, but the rest of the track is kind of this stuff, like these longer doubles and not necessarily tables and stuff like that, but more sand sections, rollers, different dirt and stuff like that. And it's kind of funny, I guess, to think way back, 9 years ago in MXGP, they were like, you know what, maybe we could do something like this. And it was a total flop, if anybody remembers. Not a lot of fans showed up to the arena to watch this race. I feel like overall not many people even watched the race or paid attention. Like, I definitely remember watching it live, but I know that it was not a big deal. Like, American fans weren't really paying attention to it. And on top of that, when it happened in the calendar year, it happened at the beginning of October, and the very next weekend was Monster Cup. So they had just ran Motocross of Nations, and then Monster Cup was after this. So it was kind of like a weird situation where not many people were like super into hardcore training mode. Monster Cup, many people didn't really put that much effort into it back then. But yeah, I guess a lot of people just didn't really show up to it or care that much about it. Obviously, we got some superstars. Ryan Dungey, a big star at the time. Zach Osborne hadn't won a title yet but was en route to the very next year on a 250. So it's cool that he showed up. Marvin Muscan was already a 250 Supercross champion, and he raced this. And of course, Jake Weimer, also 250 Supercross champion, showed up for Suzuki. So it definitely got some star powers from the U.S. side of it, but it was basically just an indoor MXGP with some American guys coming over. And it was a cool format. They had like Super Pole, which was really exciting. I think Tim Geiser won that. And then, like I said, the motos were pretty eventful, but in the end, Dungey and then KTM as a manufacturer gets the win. Cool that we're able to play it in MXGP3, though, is a bit of a flashback Friday here, though, today. I do remember making a video on this when it came out a long time ago, so you may have already seen us play this on the channel, but if you're new to the channel, if you've never even seen what MXGP3 looks like, this is what it looks like, which, honestly, this is one of those games that a lot of people talk very highly of in the MXGP saga or trio or campaign or what have you. Did I win that race? I was very close right there. But MXGP3 was definitely awesome. MXGP3 had ruts that actually worked. The terrain deformation was pretty good. It obviously looks a little bit funky, as does any console game, and all of those things as well, but definitely not as bad as the newest MXGP, MXGP24. It was, I guess, a little bit ahead of its time in that regard compared to that game, but this is an early development of Milestone. They were trying to make their way in the MXGP realm a little bit with their games, and I thought that this game turned out pretty well. And like I said, it's just cool that they had a DLC part of this where I really didn't expect them to add something like this as DLC back then. I remember being a bit surprised when it ended up launching, but I do know that the same company that runs MXGP run this event as well, and I think that maybe made it a little bit easier licensing-wise to kind of do that crossover. Maybe it was a bit of a handshake deal or something like that. And you also have to remember, at this point in time, the MXGP games came with the Motocross of Nations as a playable part of the game. So you could represent some of the countries. I know that some USA riders, I think even in MXGP3, made it in. Like, I think Jason Anderson was in the game. Cooper Webb, I think, was also in the game, or maybe I'm talking about MXGP Pro, but definitely they had Motocross of Nations as part of the game, and it was cool that they got the American riders to be part of it as well. So they definitely messed around a little bit, tried to play some stuff, and come out with some cool things. But this is the Super Motocross Riders and Manufacturers Cup from 2016 for Flashback Friday. Interesting trip down memory lane to see where SMX, I guess, technically got its roots. And thanks for stopping by and watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you guys in the next one. So long for now.